Y'all ready for some Splice? Yeah, you're right. Clap them hands. Clap them hands, clap them asses. Do what you gotta do. We're here for June Splice. Someone asked me how many of these have we done, and I think this is number 30. It's our 30th one. We do once a month. Someone who's better at math, don't contradict me, but that's all right. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. We got two excellent poets, Kwon, our local champion, and Courtney Bush, not from far away, in the background. So we'll get started here. I'll introduce Christine. She does like to call me her fairy godmother of poetry, and I appreciate that. I get a little wand after you're reading. I'm gonna sprinkle glitter on everybody. Christine Kwon is a Korean-American poet and fiction writer. Her debut poetry collection, A Ribbon, the Most Perfect Blue, won the Cowles Poetry Book Prize and was published by Southeast Missouri State University Press last year. Many of you probably have copies on your shelf. Her work has appeared in The Poetry Project, The Harvard Advocate, and Copper Nickel. She lives in New Orleans with her family. Tonight, Christine's poems are crisp configurations that move. I don't mean move as only an affective procedure. I mean move as in speed and distance. In these poems, the distance traveled between tenor and vehicle, image and sensation, place and position are crucial poetic technologies. And this practitioner creates a freshness in these movements that I correlate as a criterion for a good poem. Keep your ear up for the spatial travel this evening and what these poems choose to accelerate or hobble. This technology often targets the failures of reality to express itself honestly. And some pleasures in these poems come from discarding those faults and offering new intensities, newer realities that move better, clearer, and crisper towards how we experience this tattered psychosphere. Please welcome to the Splice stage, Christine Kwon.
Thank you, Sean. Wow. Okay. I had one Coors Light. Is that what that's called, Sean?
Silver bullet.
Yeah, and I'm not okay. I don't drink that much, and I was also in Rodrigo's pool party. Wasn't even planning on staying that long, and it was deadly. So I'm kind of whoop. All right. Oh man. No, I can't even handle this. I have some new poems. I can't even start with it because I'm not in the zone yet. Woo, okay. Franz Wright. I buy your book because you're dead, and we had dinner once. Sitting side by side in a long booth, candlelight, you were happy in a gray suit, loose as a poet, your face grotesque. Except the sad eyes, the smile, the voice. What was I, 21, 22? But that night had nothing disgusting in it. All you did was sign my book. The other beautiful youth trying to say something smart, you were smiling and smiling, barely ate at all. The food didn't register. Like an old suit, your pain was soft. If you had rage, I felt none, sitting next to you. I felt a bird land on your shoulder. That was how lightly you were there. Just the other day, I gasped, hearing the news you had been dead 7 years. You must have been dying, sitting next to me. Secretly, deliciously, you knew like desire, kept to yourself. Today, I lay on my friend's stoop, stretching like a cat. I wanted him to know I was dying. He was dying too. How special it was to be dying together. But it's so easy to mislead people. Better to say nothing at all. Between Saturn and Siberia Bar, which is where we are. I was listening to another poet describe diaspora and ancestors and where she comes from, but it didn't interest me. We're all from somewhere. Outside the bar in the cold, I thought I might leave and enter another word. Pressing hard against the glass, I thought, I like the tang of autumn. It reminds me of death, watching the branches gnarl their fist, and the girl's eyes, hyssop rack and wind, turn purple, plague, then brown, love all of it. I like emptying out, listening and not listening to this girl talk about her imported memories. I thought, I remember nothing at all, have nowhere to return to, but God, I love the fall. Not asphodel. In the living room, there was a bright white door. I knew if I went through, I would be dead. I was alone. I mean, there were others, strangers, but we only smiled and milled about, looking at the objects in the room, but careful not to touch anything. This made it a kind of party. As for me, there were bookshelves. I recognized the titles of my books. I did not need to see my name to know they were mine. These books, with all their pretty names, already existed. For instance, in this room. I turned and a woman stood there ruining. She was distraught. Oh, I wanted to help her. Don't worry, I said, it'll be okay. She was wringing her hands. Her hands were raw and red. She kept looking at the door behind me. I don't know what I'm doing here, she said. Or maybe I only heard her voice in my head. I wondered faintly, like an elk moving in the woods in the distance, if I was already dead, the way my books were already written. And the woman said, oh, are you a writer? And I thought, I must be in hell. I thought of William Carlos Williams, his lovely poem about death and his wife, and how he wrote that he was cheered that there were flowers also in hell. I looked around the room and there were no flowers. I desperately wanted to read more of it, wanted to reach out and have his book in my hands, but it wasn't there. It was at home in my lacquered green shelves. The prettiest books are flowers, meadows, snow. I went towards the door and felt the cold brass in my hand. My fingers smelled like rust, and the room was so white, the sun white as paper. You mustn't go, the woman cried, but it was all in my head. Sleep song after the yaki. Cry. I do not like dying, but a little death moves me. I do not like dying, but a little death moves me. I do not like dying, but a little death moves me. In the other room where you sleep, night veils your face. I do not like it, but a little death moves me. Not everything dying moves, but your face moving a little moves me. We're getting to the poems that I wrote today. Yes, Lord. This one is called Kuchishibashi, the Japanese word for lonely mouth. This is the kind of stuff my therapist emails me. I apologize for the delphiniums, the hyacinths, the tulips, the ranunculus, the names I don't know what to call, the peonies, the roses, the sprays of yellow fennel, the anemones, the orange blossoms, new names, old names, never mine, the Chinese hibiscus, the buffalo grass, the white-faced freckled hawthorn, the pink lady slippers, the camellias, the blue boneset, the blue cardinals, the flowers you only see at night, the narcissi, the wild irises, the scrawny violets I pluck from your garden just to let fall as I walk back to my house. Hug me, kiss me. What's blazing pink outside? This is the first poem with my baby in it. Okay. What's blazing pink outside the window? Oh, just the 4 o'clocks. Long, spindly fingers, crisp. 'Twas a cold winter. However, the big yellow trumpet blossom still lives. Green surrounds the gray stump, and green leaps into being from green stems growing from green trunks, and soon we know big yellow will trumpet and droop once more all their yellow heads. The 4 o'clocks flame pink in your window, and whether the world is on fire or not, the world is beautiful. A teenage boy, you will watch the 4 o'clocks your father calls the oleander, waving, and you will be like him, snoring, or you will be like me, snoring anxiously. Although the way you startle does remind me of me, the way you go from calmly sleeping to sobbing. It's then you notice the 4 o'clocks and that the world's on fire. Do you think if we lived in the old days, your father would have had me committed? Would have taken me to buy velvet ribbons and clutching 1 pink, 1 violet, 1 scarlet, and black to wear in my black hair, I would have been tricked to the asylum? I like to think not, but there has been the odd morning I beg him to take me, clutching his legs on the blue steps, first thing, the sun weak and pale, crying please. The 4 o'clocks burn at 6 and wave their arms in the wind like women adoring the sun. When you see the 4 o'clocks waving, you will think of your mother. Will you think of your mother? When the palms shake in the wind, will you think of me? When you see a giant tree stretching its black arms against the sky, will you shout my name? My son, don't be afraid. My love for you thunders from a cloud. Resignation syndrome. How long have I been reading? Too long? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? It's so hot the swamp is rotting. Why have all the swan boats not flown away? Why are the white herons not flying wherever they go to desert us? Forget script, the children don't know their last names. They take up the whole page as if the universe is pulling them apart. After the parade, the son of a cop ran down 9 bikers. I walked past their bodies. That same season, a woman was severed in half. She was picking up beads thrown from a masked rider. The bedsheet the cops tented over quickly bloomed red. No more spring or fall, there are 2 seasons now, red flames or blue flames, hot or icy hot. Why do the hairless squirrels chase one another up the tree? Soon no more acorns, flowers, bees. I stopped a child from stamping out a caterpillar. There will be nothing to eat up your body when you're dead, I said. The only thing worse than rotting is not rotting. No hole for the soul to escape from. I'm the best kind of teacher. Just bring us the beignets and frozen coffees and syrupy ice. What matter if our eyes and feet and hands rot still attached? If our feet crystallize white dust like uber-sweet fruit, it's not like we go for a walk. Let's stay home and grade the students' papers. They don't know left from right or how to tie their shoes. When they grow up, they want to be viral stars. Maybe they will sprout tentacles where their hands and feet used to be, and the shoe industry will boom, and we will only see what's visible in blue light. No one has children anymore anyway. There's no one left to teach them. All the teachers have perished under the bridges. The mayor moved their tents from the park. When they approach my car, I fiddle with the radio. Refugee children in Sweden have fallen into comas and won't wake up. They're perfectly healthy otherwise, the news says. Once their parents gain citizenship, they wake up and go to school. What a terrible dream, they say. I'm gonna read one more I wrote today. But this one's very in progress and it will all change. I'm experimenting with I don't know. I'm happy you came. Perked me up. Okay, this has no title yet. 1. Oh, and the first one kind of reminds me of a line I liked from Ian Lockaby. Ian U. Lockaby. 1. In the morning I need you. I needed you all night. But in the morning you put on your suit. 2. Head on the wall, my hair makes a paper sound. I could put it in an envelope. 3. Lace over my eyes, cloak myself in black, river running through. All night I am prepared. 4. Passing the cemetery, I spy a mausoleum for 2, for me and other me. 5. Evening seeping into the trees, I run around with a paper cup. 6. As I get on the train, you are getting off. 7. You love it when I burn the old mail with our names on it. I walk everywhere drenched, feeling the cool night air. 8. If I ever was, I was night, cold, bronze, arms statuesque, stone, torso, arms and neck, heart all longing. And I'll read a couple from my book, which came out. Have I been reading 30 minutes? It's okay, I'm only gonna go to 20, maybe less. Upside down. So, academia is like dying. And the university that published my book, because I won their prize, Southeast Missouri, SEMO Press, it's been around decades, but their university is shutting it down. But another publisher was very nicely agreed to keep my book in print. Black Lawrence Press, so my book lives on. Cooper, you don't look as entertained. Should I stop?
Keep going.
I'll read like
More.
2 more. I'll read a New York one since Courtney's visiting from there. I was born in Queens and my family's still there. The River, 1963 to 2019. I'm rowing father across the river Styx. He keeps looking over into the gray, looking afraid. I don't want to go, he says. It's not that I want you to, I say. We could have taken a swan boat. We could have waited for a sunny day. But I put out my hand and a skinny oar dropped into it, like the handle of a broom. I thought of many things rowing. A deep fog enclosed us, in which I could make out my hands coming back to me. I heard father say close in my ear, "Oh, I don't want to go to hell." Fear had filled his voice like a girl's choir. It's not that I want you to, I said. No, it's not done. Then I dropped the act like when Dante meets his gay friend in purgatory. The marvel of life cut through like the smell of bacon. Wasn't it you who jumped into the Hudson River on a hazy August afternoon? The traffic on the George Washington Bridge was stopped, my bus was stopped, and I stood up, swirling in the aisle. Oh, I thought about it, father says after a while, but I didn't have the courage. My arms were tired of rowing. I wished to leave them behind. I had a premonition about death, of this tiredness and wanting death to take it away. Did you know, father says, now and then you drive a ghost. Ask any taxi driver in New York. Once a girl got in, no luggage, strange shimmering dress. As we were coming down a hill, I saw her vanish in the mirror. The water got shallow. I couldn't row any longer if I wanted to. On the banks of the Hudson, I came to like I had just been born. I'm gonna read one more fun one. Just like classic one and leave, right? Yeah. But I don't want to read that one. Oops. Disaster. Okay, I'll have to read that one. No, I'm not going to read that one. Cooper, what do you think? Should I just go?
No, you should read one more. The people.
Yeah. Take your time. Choose the right
No.
But don't think.
Okay. When your month is lonely. When your month is lonely, the walk is lovely, but you won't walk it. The ground wet as eyelashes, the fronds dripping sturdy streams, water tapping the fountain, frogs chirping. It strikes your heart with fear. The night gathering as a pool in the trees along the fence, the sun small and pink and dying in the distance behind some stupid houses. And though you could call someone, it may be worse. You'd have to entertain, take out the cheese and wine, and say something clever. Maybe you should just stay with the night, find just one insect outside and follow it. Tonight I found a brown moth with yellow eyes like an owl, opening and closing. Not particularly lustrous, like a grandmother's dress, a black line running through the hem, skirting the floor. For a few days, I was afraid of my damp feet on the wood after pacing the night. Like a lantern, my body remembered I had to train myself to remember nothing was happening. I was not unmoored. I could be so sensible, and night so easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Let's keep it going for Christine. Kwon. So, you know, at the Splice, there's three of us. Obviously, Henry Goldcamp is not here today, but he's here in spirit, always. Some months back, he brought up, this poet that, I had never heard of. It's called Courtney. And at the Splice, we each have, absolute veto power. We don't have to go along with what, but we try to work together, And, but when Henry suggested Courtney, I remember we were at a bar and he kind of lowered his glasses like this as if to say, don't veto this one. And I didn't, of course, because once I looked at the work. There's a poetic tendency these days that is deeply invested in maximally fluid syntaxes, where the poems lift off the gravity force field of topicality. It's an aesthetic tendency that implicitly refuses to impose an arbitrary order on a world of flux and chaos, a world driven by market imperatives, including ready-made poetic personas. It's a tendency that commits to sprawl strategies of affect making. It's highly self-reflexive, multiphonic, quirkily narrative, and full of both pop culture and high illusion. It also cherishes a high tolerance for ambiguous zones of discursivity. Some exemplars of this tendency are Annalise Gelman, Nikki Walschlager, and Juliette Gelman-Randazzo, and Courtney Bush, who we are so lucky and honored to have with us here today. Through her verse, Bush deftly balances the stream of perceptions of which human consciousness is composed of with the wicked eye for and what to do about artifice, or rather, how to ride the artificing waves of information already in motion. That is, though Bush's poetics is open-ended and multivarious, it is also an art of zeroing in on cultural signals in all of their concreteness. Its radar is honed to capture our cultural zeitgeist in hundreds of guises, including the madness of multitasking and our entertainment-seeking ways. That is, the cargo load capacity of Bush's multi-effectual poetics is very high. And like her fellow practitioners, I would add local poets, Cameron Lovejoy and Ian Lockley to that tendency, is stretch metonym, not woven metaphor. That's what holds their poetics together. Hegelianists. And like the sonnets of Bernadette Mayer, there's a hair-down quality to it all, a joyous libidinality that permeates the work, especially in Courtney Bush's wonderful book, I Love Information. Courtney Bush is a poet and filmmaker from the Mississippi Gulf Coast who lives and works in New York City. Her second poetry collection, I Love Information, published by Milkweed Editions, was a winner of the 2022 National Poetry Series. She's also the author of Every Book is About the Same Thing. Isn't this nice? And 13 Morisettes, a chapbook written in collaboration with Jack Underwood. She has an MFA in poetry from Brooklyn College. Her poems have appeared in the Brooklyn Rail, Triangle House Review, Peach Mag, and Flag Plus Void, Her films have been screened at festivals internationally. Please, let's welcome Courtney Bush.
I'm just gonna use this to make sure I don't go over. Thank y'all so much. I'm so excited. Let me just make sure this. Can y'all hear me? Yeah. Okay. I'm always like this whenever I read. So I'm just gonna stand up straight and hope you can hear me. I'm so happy to be here. Sean and Rodrigo, it's just been I was at a pool party. Like, I feel like I manifested that myself. So thank you for having that in the material world. I feel like I've been really wanting a pool party. And it means a lot for me to read in the South. I've never read in the South before. I'm from the South. My family's here, and that means a lot to me. And yeah, my other family, Bo McGuire, is here. My family, Nick Crossell, is here. So I'm just really excited. And I'm going to read mostly poems from my book, I Love Information. Some of them are long and some of them are short. Okay, these are for Bo McGuire, who requested to hear these poems. This is Caitlin, and that is what I name every poem that I don't know what to name. I just call her Caitlin. The wind pattern they call snake came back. The football player they call snake came back. Roz orders fennel with a champagne vinaigrette. The memoir, the Valentine's Day, in the empty apartment dancing to Harvest Moon, and I was crying in a world of ultraviolet light. Is this the rapture or is it not? The good fire eating the bad fire. This far in the woods, not only is there a house, there's a person coming out of it. An empty soda bottle at the edge of a creek, at the edge of a public park with the used broken condoms, has two faces better than the moon's and more distinct. Sun-bleached and perfect orange, perfect purple. You are the leech angel, remembering with perfect clarity a Chinese restaurant in Yonkers on your deathbed, recalling slumlord, oak-colored fake wood cabinets going all the way around the room like a leech angel. This is also for Bo. It's called Caitlin. Oh, thanks. 3 Angel Windsor, triple Angel Lutz. She found out there are only 3 kinds of ovens. Sweaters finished drying on chairs. What is there left to care about? My boss says my ex's ex looks like a mushroom. The new one like an Olsen twin with wet, tangled hair. The sky is annoying. You couldn't call this snowfall. Desire is good for songs, movies, and poetry. Swan wasn't able to strategically harness it. These are not the blueberries you pretend I am. I am a door-to-door maniac, and certainly not to love you now, or more, or creatively. All right, this is also called Caitlin. For money, I illustrated a book on horse surgery with my closest friend, buttered bread and put it on a hot slab of iron. I wiped vomit from Coco's chest. I watched the blood gathering there. I was so sentimental, I had to believe he was alive. I wrote 100 knock-knock jokes about Easter, made cheese out of nuts, washed reusable paper towels in the sink of a rich woman, wrote lines that did not orbit, pool, or curve. I folded onesies into diamond shapes. I agreed to call the department when I saw bruises, and came so far from what I actually felt. I lied about where the soup came from. I crushed chickpeas to a fine mist. I dyed tap water with natural food color and helped a child touch the water. I let a sinister guinea pig's teeth penetrate my fingertip. To establish dominance, I read 6 books at once. I admitted my obsession to my obsession, walked fearlessly into the wild sweep of corn. I screamed louder and stood when I wanted to sit. I made cookies from a tube. I restricted calories. I ran and squatted and planked. I understood everything. I remembered the shape of every vestibule. I listened for the crack of a twig. I practiced archery at a sordid camp in Alabama. Told the teacher, possum starts with an O. I got in trouble. I doodled on the script. I held the knives. I dug deep grooves into what I had done. I dissolved the inferior materials and left the gold. I engineered a virus spread by insect. I read Machiavelli all summer to get back at the one who read Machiavelli all summer. I painted Merritt Parkway. Before that, I invented permanent green. Between the invention and the painting, I popularized the color. I redirected traffic and fixed everything. I trained my dog to kill the police, to kill the president. I told Tom not to follow his heart because his heart is a piece of shit. Okay, this is called Rilke voice. I remember having no control, more difficult than any angel wherever she may be caught, in whatever breast, in whatever blue, pink, yellow light, in gladiator light. The prodigy I held so close. I said close to her heart, her country reminds me of Y2K. Even then, it shouldn't be Glenn Gould all the time. Mary Robeson, the second elegy at Duino, or the computer, plus whatever I had to say to you a year ago. Singing Turandot at night in the snow, singing Turandot outside like a bot. To all the rich people dressed as punks on the train at rush hour, the angel stuck in a hole in a leaf, snagged on some edge, like when I try to remember everything I love and love is back. That Connecticut lady won't shut up. Less than a year has passed and it will happen again. I would tell you about it, pushing you to Antarctica in the free museum wheelchair, being so mean to you. We can't deny back there we felt closer to where we are going than now. When we saw the painting with the angels in the rafters, you said, that one is just a spear of light. The others were babies, parts of babies with wings, a head. And you said, we are happier than they are, than everyone. And it felt like standing on a cliff. Half the time, Coco doesn't understand the words themselves. Half the time, only meaning eludes her. I feel inside I will transform, and you can justify anything by connecting it to Ashbury. There's no one to talk me out of it, as one of us has to eat, clean, receive, and give away money. If a photograph exists, it can't really be rare. At Duino, I could call on something Italian too, my mom's friend Carmine, from middle of the earth, the sin cake eater. I'm fighting over who should buy the cigarettes. What's the youngest you've ever been, and the youngest you could bear being again? At Duino, I could isolate looking for you from abstract looking, and on top of the hand is the underhand. I miss other people more. They are hosing things down, so smart. So today, when they hose down the chicken warehouses, I'd like to be a complete idiot or a complete anything in the first clips of sunlight. In the sun is a metal circle turning into a dance that goes around. There is a premonition in the language of the never-ending pain, eclipsing itself out on the moors. It fractures, and that is totally fine on the moors. The female schooner captain died today. The gay, cool female schooner captain. Caitlin said, not that road. There will be a morning, and a road that makes you feel better about yourself. Dancing with the romaine lettuce devil, sitting on the seawall with the man who killed the mayor. Emily Dickinson's poems as she preserved them. I told Andy he had these and other unspeakably dark forces to thank for all the LA modern architecture he's obsessed with. That's how drunk I was. Mitya, Pyotr 1, Pyotr 2, Dmitri, Petroshka, your name. I do this to myself. Listening to music and watching TV at the same time is impossible, a teenager told his girlfriend on the train this morning, trying to fill holes. Frantic and ecstatic must come from the same place. When you take out the Christian myths, the angels are still in the rafters, hanging over the empty barn, stray clumps of hay, dust, a dog. If one person can sing 3 songs at once, there could be more songs than ears. If you want to be funny, write out the logic of anything. When I sing, I'm just saying the question does the begging. People are not special. Being alive is special. Leonard Cohen yelling, in the end, We give up customs we barely had time to learn. That is what hysterical light made me think. Good night, my love. I'm trying to read 6 books at once. Some people change and some don't. That is not a literary device. Some people learn something. 1-800-HURT. In this way, it is like a garden or an aquarium where some flowers live by accident. There is nothing spectacular about a show of hands. Fuck a Whitmanic list. I always say, we are supposed to somehow give things to each other without taking anything away. I saw a kid dabbing and flossing at the Hilma off Clint show. I told my pre-verbal children how nighttime is pointless. I read the elegies at the top of my lungs, and yes, they cried out for someone else. Oh my God, was that the wasp?
Oh, no.
I was like thinking that wasp was coming for me. Thank you, Dad. Happy Father's Day! Like, the man just flipped the wasp off his daughter. That's like Taken type shit. Like, thank you. Okay, I just didn't even know. Wow, okay, let's get back to this. Lost beyond the resources of talk, I took the path of things so mysterious we shouldn't bother with explaining. To play a heavy metal song of love. Fires. When I ask, is there not something like Greek tragedy, but now? I pursued my obsession with shame and confusion. He is a nice person, and he's not using drugs anymore, so that's even better. So you feel what I want. Maybe it could be transitive. Oh no, this is what I meant about not taking anything away. Silver at the gills with facts about the Cold War. Silver in the bouncy balls at Walmart. To the bridge that fell, you were the worst bridge. Something to suck water out of the ground, intimate like the only self. They are out there along the highway in summer. My mom called me an evil weed-smoking thug, and you're distracted talking to a friend in the back seat about nothing in particular. A child who knows poems is just a child who knows poems. Already too many of those. Something was lying to you. The youngest thing you could imagine. Give me a gold coin. When I sing, I'm just trying to make a dog cry. Like that one. Can't believe that wasp.
You have done it every show.
A wasp?
Yeah.
It's some sort of harbinger of something good, I hope. So it's just sitting in that chair.
It's just gonna let itself die if we ignore it.
I think it's listening to me.
It's nestled in there.
It's having a great time. It loves this. Okay, this is a poem. This is a longer poem called Seraphim or Nothing. Let me just. Oh, I'm good. Seraphim or Nothing. In a dream, the man I'm more or less in love with for a year sent me a photo of an action painting behind glass, in the reflection of which I can see a woman in his bed I recognize from the internet. Though we have no reason to talk in my waking life, he sends me stills from a Catherine Bigelow movie. I can't imagine being about anything other than being beautiful and silent for a long time. The lights on the 18-wheeler mean it's coming toward me. Love is how I always wanted it. The children trust me and say, take us out of this mess. Sonnet, it's time for you to do what you said you would. I'm talking to you now. You will do this for me. You will think. To be here with so much flesh, Elvira was saying, and violence in one place is just great. I used to believe everything was either all real or all fake. That was being younger. So the things my boyfriend did confused me, and much greater and more important things happening around me passed without my grasping. All right, well, thank you and welcome to WrestleMania 2, Love from Los Angeles, Love from the Tower of Song. Megan and I walked around the block. Sam's dad died. I told her my thoughts felt so balanced they could do some kind of physical work, as strong as a crane or 1,000 teenagers, could level a field. She thought I meant witchcraft. She wanted me to talk to Sam like I could help him do some. I remember when he wanted to start a militia. Men can't do witchcraft, I told her. It's why all old songs are about pretty women drowning. You can't have everything. Friend is the name I use in the preschool when I want the children to know that what I am telling them is only based on our context, not on who we are, so not based on the way whenever I speak one-on-one to a certain friend, she tucks my hair behind my ear in a gesture of the love that is coming back to me, a gesture of the complete circle of it. I have to believe it's possible to set this up, to listen and to talk at the same time. 2 Easters ago, I looked down at a bunny my mother made on the stone countertop from a round loaf of Hawaiian bread by carving the middle out and using that part to form ears, then filling the hole with some kind of dip, then pressing M&Ms into the bread for eyes. After she made the bunny, she told me she had invited her newly dead boyfriend's sons, who none of us had ever met, to come that night to read the will in the same room as that bunny. I remember thinking, these are the kinds of memories I'll have, and the 2 M&Ms weren't even the same color. I told Megan it didn't matter how obsessed Sam was with witchcraft, because even his most true obsession would not compare to the least of mine, which are still built on the kind of attention passed down from the beginning of time, having to do with the connection between survival and focus, unlike his obsession, which would center on survival and I don't know what. There is only one shoulder I ever needed to memorize. Nothing happened, but I memorized it. I was drunk, drinking thin, blue, calorie-less Powerade with Aristocrat vodka in the soccer goal in the yard with Sarah and Justin. This is the story of my first kiss. I didn't believe in an interventionist God. The plants inside the house were dead, though my mom fed them the tab she swore by. And inside, mine are dying, though I feed them coffee, the closest thing I have. She said it will be pretty funny when we are both 33 in heaven. I know when one friend says, I'm not tired, she should get a book, but when another friend says, I'm not tired, he needs me to come over with a weighted blanket, to pat his chest and talk in a low voice about what he loves. I know the pattern. Be afraid to be left alone, only to be left alone. The audiobook in the stereo, Frog and Toad eating all the cookies. The children scared of sharks ask what I'm scared of. I'm scared I won't find the lost pilot. I'm scared I'll forget to do everything. And what that friend loves is drums. I broke a friend's name or the spell my voice had cast when I said his name up to that point, when I screamed it, Noah, when I saw him jabbing his little index finger at the reset button on the electrical outlet. I knew I could, by screaming his name, scare him in a way it was important I had never before. You know this in an emergency. You access strategies. And I wished I hadn't had to do that, and told him how I wished I hadn't had to do that, and remembered once he had misunderstood some logistical aspect of the day, and asked, then who is going to take care of us? A really seductive commercial selling refrigerators on Britney's TV has anchored its mission in how precious figs are. So the woman slowly cuts the figs in half before placing them on the glass platform inside the fridge's main chamber and hopes they will remain safe but become colder. Yeah. I have to buy celery and food coloring for an experiment. Someone on Twitter has been talking to the dead every 3 or 4 days. Reality is obsessive. The number of days since you smoked your last cigarette is intimate. I read in a children's book that fairies have no pity. The Egyptian Book of the Dead is called the Book of Coming into the Day. In it, I read one morning, we are living in the filth of Osiris. Felt I had read some eternal truth, as life might as well be and have been and continue to be the filth of Osiris, and found it a little funny, like what death is like for the dead is funny, because we have absolutely no perspective. I always loved how you learn the rhythm of jokes, but never what they are. It's slow and has no end, like waking phasers set to the impersonal world. When I was drunk in high school, I would peel the shrink wrap from a frozen salmon fillet from a Sam's Club bulk bag in the kitchen, lit only by the freezer light, put it unseasoned in a teal frosted plastic bowl directly into the microwave, which when I opened it created a second light, a light from above, and heat the fish on high for as long as it took to make it hot, and I liked the way it tasted. I thought it was good. I listened to everything Jisoo says, and she said from the end of the coffee table she thought everything in my poem was true. Only then did it occur to me, while I used my hand to move pistachio shells around a plate, that it might not be, that to write about things I had experienced was not the only option. And I do remember many things, and I want to give my brain something it wants, but it would be interesting and make a kind of sense if what I wanted to give my brain didn't exist. I understand the structure of the world as a person being interrupted, but not in a bad way. I tried making an expansive neurological tissue with sonnets that overlapped, in which any 3 consecutive stanzas, each having 4 or 5 lines, would touch each other in ways that added up to 12 to 15 lines. The idea was based on the sonnet's reputation for solving, and my serious intention to make a poem that can think. It was less a formal exercise than a spell I was counting on to work, or else why live? That's what I was always saying to Brittany before the children got to school. And that poem was long and bad because that idea was no good. That poem wouldn't think, but it was almost thinking. In a Quaker meeting in Pasadena, a man told an old story about a friend in the Quaker sense of the word, called to sail from America to England to attend a meeting at his old meeting house, who on arrival was so filthy no one recognized him as a friend. How that was the worst thing he ever felt. I told Paul in the cemetery the story of the story when I was feeling very emotional, and about how if I asked someone to draw the scene, so much would be left out. The blue tarp, the pile of cans, the car on cinder blocks, the garbage and shit, the story of the worst feeling. Writing is so often treated like some ravenous villain of the actual world, but I don't believe it makes anything worse. I don't like the way songs define God by saying all the things God is not, because what they actually identify is some baseline fear that there just isn't anything. I don't think language can fail. Fail to do what? You wouldn't ask experience to be language. You wouldn't mop with a tennis ball. I think poets are the best kind of people, and experience is not very abstract to me. The memory of the morning after I slept with Paul starts blank, then I remember light coming through the blinds, hitting the towels still in the guest bed of the vacation rental house, empty of decoration except a few pieces of sports memorabilia, like the bedroom of a suicidal Tom Brady fan. Have you seen A Star is Born? I asked him, each time he fell back to sleep, to force him to wake up again and pay attention to me. When he was getting dressed, I asked him if he'd seen A Star is Born, so he would stop. I would not want to be an angel of the lower orders, so assigned the role of guardian, or worse, property angel. I think I'd quit that job too. I was thinking of wrought iron and black denim because I was thinking of angels, because I was thinking of an Eileen Miles reading I went to 6 years ago, under a sky also very black. The specific dark and the specific and unvaried glamour of the people in line outside the church made me afraid of domestic things like shutting my cat in a closet and leaving him there all night, or growing tired of the man I loved. Getting off the train at Botanic Garden in the onslaught of new air, I had escaped New York. I got out, and hadn't I wanted to, it felt like I could go. I saw it work when nothing would budge. I did not put my favorite thing in a poem. I pressed my thumbs into John's palms to draw the circles I always drew there. I have been someone I don't want around. The spirit matter has rolled between the hills like thunder. The gate at that station looked like the imaginary gate, where in old poems things happened and stories began. Brittany and I had to work our way backward. What my brain wants is to go into the space between everything. But we worked our way from the problem of worthlessness and the lack of proof we deserve to live to the solution, which is the poem that can think. My ex-husband will not talk to me, but sends poems about death I look at only briefly, since real death is in my life, and asks which translators of Proust I like. I say Moncrief and Kilmartin, not because I don't care, because I like the basic ones the most, the ones with flowers, the ones that know one day we'll find out what happened at the party did matter. Thanks, y'all. one more poem from this book. I've been going for like 20 minutes. Okay, 25 minutes. I'm gonna read one more poem from this book, and then I'm gonna read one new poem. This is called 2008. After the shrimp festival, under bug glow, little moving pieces of light in the pale light halos responding to my motion, threw rotisserie chicken bones into the woods that night. The quarter hour alone, I read from the Bible on my phone and thought, is this about me? I went listening, let words between myself and one who is no longer in or has not yet entered this world be few as pure strategy. I was so desperate for information from outside the event, like the dark outside the windows, but from outside it was the house that was dark. In comparing myself to others, there was a slippage from other bodies to somewhere between myself and works of art. First, a documentary about a very rare type of mirage. I was nothing like the mirage and nothing like the way the men talked about it. A kind of respectful wonder I doubted I had ever felt. Then there were the poems I was nothing like. Kyle reached out, having read Ecclesiastes, to his father. I remember you loved there is a time for casting stones away and a time for gathering stones together. From the rectangle of blue light I read, all is vanity and a striving after wind, and I did love that, but at 90 degrees, sweating in the middle of the night, my nearly euphoric fear, how much I didn't know, that one day I would turn around and see lined up all the things I had done in order to survive and think, what's amazing is not what you did, not that you did it when you were a little child, but that you did all these sad, strange things for me. Okay, I'm gonna read one new poem. I'm so sweaty. Is everyone sweating so much? So I just thought I would say that's what's happening with me. Okay, so these are some new poems I've been writing. They're called talking scrolls, and they're like syllabic poems, which I always thought were kind of goofy thing to do, but they're actually kind of fun. Turns out. Okay, I'll read this one. This is the 5th talking scroll. I don't come to you alone. In the clean heavens painters make up to control context. I am a message. I meet you in your life, and context spills from every frame, context all over the floor. I call forth your divorce, a backdrop, your newest love who dropped the acid in the closet. 5:45 a.m., call to prayers out the window, lessons you learned at your job, how each child responded to the loud crash so differently, and for the first time you knew what it meant when they said no one is the same, so we cannot experience life as each other. When the baby cries, it does not mean she feels the way you would have to feel to scream that way. No matter what deal you have with the goddess, you can only live in this world. If the animals could speak, they wouldn't say what you want them to. They probably wouldn't even want to talk to you. Once you saw a girl's wavy brown hair hanging down her back, curling across strips of linen tied into knots along her spine, and you grabbed the rope of it. She was your friend. You were standing behind her at the busiest intersection in the world. In Shibuya, she led you through the scramble by her hair and laughed as the people brushed past in their black suits, their shopping bags, the navy blue sky dimmed by so much city light, pushing back at the void profound of unessential night. Yes, the mind itself is a place. Everything really is tied to everything else inside, but if you externalize the tying, some artists have tried, you see how fragile the ties, how painfully nonsensical, more stress than it's worth, and more obvious. Do you believe in the open road, in the family, in an old lost continuity, on a blanket where the clear green river met the milky mineral-rich water of another, 2 salmon spawned. They were dying. You sipped from a bottle of Chardonnay that tasted exactly like a butterscotch dum-dum, felt there was nothing you couldn't write about, playing chicken with language at the sun-warmed crossroads of death and poem. That's that. Thank y'all so much.
Keep it going for Courtney Bush and Christine Kwon. Well, have a good time this evening. How did you like your first poetry reading?
was outstanding.
Outstanding. Clark, how did you enjoy yourself tonight?
The wasp freaked me out.
The wasp was freaky, Roger?
The wasp flew at my head.
Well, all right. If the mic cord was longer, I could reach over there. Thank y'all so much for coming tonight. This wouldn't happen without y'all. Y'all are the poetry scene. Y'all are the community being here and doing this damn thing with us. Please join us again on Saturday, July 13th. We have Madison MacArthur coming in from UC Santa Cruz. And a guy, Nam Tran, who came to New Orleans Poetry Fest this year and liked it so much he fucking moved here. And he's gonna do a poetry reading with smoke machines and lasers and shit. It's gonna be weird. Tip your bartenders, talk to the poets, hang out. Y'all got books for sale? Buy some books online, Venmo. Just give them cash. Give them the cash that's in your pockets. They deserve it. Thank you for coming. Party on.